Life in ancient Egypt was far removed from the comfort and predictability of our modern lives. We adapted, adopting their customs and clothes, learning their language, but beneath it all, a sense of foreboding persisted. We were imposters, two actors playing a part in a play that spanned millennia. As time went by, we became proficient in their language and customs. I found employment in a scribe's office, and Sarah, with her natural flair for storytelling, became a favored entertainer at the court. However, our predicament remained unchanged. Every day was a reminder that we were prisoners of time, stuck in an era that was not our own. The mystery of the machine and the Ankh haunted us. Our every waking moment was spent looking for a way to get back to that hidden chamber, back to our own time. Then, late one night, an opportunity arose. The pharaoh announced a grand celebration for the completion of a new pyramid. It was to be a night of revelry, with the whole city participating in the festivities, including the royal guards. We saw our chance. With the guards preoccupied, we could sneak into the pyramid. As the night of the festival approached, I felt a knot in my stomach. Our plan was risky, the possibility of failure high. Yet the thought of remaining trapped in this time was even more terrifying. The night of the festival arrived, and the city was alive with excitement. Musicians played, dancers spun, and firelight danced on the faces of the celebrants. It was a beautiful spectacle, but beneath the joy, I could only feel a chilling fear. We waited for the right moment, and then, under the cover of darkness, we slipped away from the crowd. As we approached the Great Pyramid, it stood ominous and imposing against the night sky, bathed in the silver light of the moon. Its entrance was shrouded in darkness, a gaping mouth ready to swallow us. With bated breath, we made our way through the passageways, the echoes of our footsteps a chilling reminder of our audacity. I felt an unseen presence, an unease in the air that seemed to grow with every step we took. But we pressed on, the thought of home propelling us forward. We reached the hidden chamber, and the sight of the machine filled us with a mixture of dread and hope. It was our gateway, our curse, and our potential savior. I rushed to the machine and placed the Ankh in its slot. It began to hum, its vibrations shaking the chamber. The air grew thick, heavy with anticipation. Sarah held my hand, her grip tight with fear and anticipation. Our hearts pounded in unison as we waited for the familiar pull of time travel. Suddenly, the chamber was filled with an ear-splitting roar. A rush of wind swept through the room, whipping up sand and dust. I shielded my eyes, struggling to see through the chaos. As my eyes adjusted, a horrifying sight greeted me. Out of the shadowy corners of the room, spectral figures emerged. They were massive, dark, and bore an oppressive aura. Their eyes, glowing with a menacing red light, were locked onto us. They were the guardians of the machine, the unseen threat we hadn't accounted for. The spectral figures advanced, their forms shifting, mirroring the warriors and beasts of ancient lore. A chilling fear seized me as I realized our desperate bid for freedom had awakened a deadly force. We were in their realm, at the mercy of these ancient guardians. As they closed in, the fear in Sarah's eyes mirrored my own. We were trapped, caught between an angry past and an inaccessible future. The shadows of the past had risen, turning our horrifying predicament into a living nightmare. The spectral guardians towered over us, their forms shifting between human and beast, their crimson eyes glowing with an ancient rage. Their very presence filled the chamber with a bone-chilling cold, a tangible dread that seemed to seep into our souls. My heart pounded in my chest as one of the guardians advanced, its form solidifying into a muscular warrior. It raised a colossal ghostly blade, the edge gleaming ominously in the machine's dim glow. Its eyes were locked onto us, its intentions clear. I pulled Sarah behind me, shielding her with my body. The guardian swung its blade, and we dodged just in time, the powerful gust from its swing almost knocking us off our feet. "Sarah, we have to get out of here!" I shouted over the deafening howl of the wind that swirled within the chamber. She nodded, her eyes wide with terror. Using the machine as cover, we tried to inch our way towards the exit. But the guardians seemed to anticipate our movements, their ghostly forms eerily agile. Each step towards escape was met with a terrifying show of force, blocking our way and pushing us back. The guardians didn't seem to want to kill us outright, but were hell-bent on stopping us from leaving the chamber. They were protectors, but not of us. They were guardians of the past, defending against intruders who dared to meddle with the flow of time. With the exit blocked, I scanned the chamber desperately for an escape route, my mind racing. The walls were inscribed with hieroglyphs that danced under the machine's glow, their ancient secrets a mystery. The weight of thousands of years echoed around us, taunting us with a history we were not part of. As another ghostly blade sliced through the air, a crazy idea flashed through my mind. The machine. If I could just manage to activate it, perhaps we could escape. But the Ankh, our key to activating the machine, was still inside it. I needed a distraction. I needed Sarah. I turned to her, my eyes pleading. Sarah, I need you to distract them. Her eyes widened in fear. How? Do what you do best, I said, a desperate plan forming in my mind. Tell them a story. Sarah was a natural storyteller, a skill that had made her popular in the royal court. Her stories had the power to captivate, to enchant. Could they distract these spectral guardians? She hesitated, her gaze shifting between me and the terrifying specters. Then she nodded, stepping forward with a courage that left me in awe. Sarah took a deep breath, her voice rising above the eerie silence of the chamber. She began to weave a tale, her words flowing with the grace of the Nile. It was a story of gods and heroes, of betrayal and redemption, a tale steeped in ancient lore. Her voice echoed in the chamber, a beacon of humanity in a place of haunting darkness. To my amazement, the guardians paused, their crimson eyes flickering with what seemed like curiosity. Their attention was on Sarah, their threatening stance lessening. Seizing the opportunity, I rushed to the machine, carefully pulling out the Ankh. The machine began to whir and hum, and the spectral guardians turned their gaze towards me. But it was too late. I pressed the Ankh against the machine's panel, and a blinding light enveloped us. In a moment of disorientation, time lost its meaning. My stomach churned as the familiar pull of time travel gripped us. The chamber and its spectral guardians dissolved around us, their angered roars fading into a terrifying echo in the darkness. Our desperate bid for escape had worked. But as the blinding light dimmed and the chilling echo of the past faded, we found ourselves not in our own time, but deeper in the sands of deception. In the heart of an even more ancient Egypt, a time of gods and the dawn of the Pharaohs, the machine had not brought us home, but further into the shadowy depths of the past. And as we faced this terrifying reality, the whispers of the past echoed around us, a grim reminder of our dance with time. We were not spectators, but unwilling participants in a play that spanned millennia, a play of horrors, mysteries, and a relentless pursuit of survival. Our surroundings blurred back into focus, and my breath hitched at the sight. We were in a grand palace, opulent in ways the court of the pharaoh we had left behind could never imagine. Statues of gods loomed over us, their gold and lapis lazuli reflecting the light from the countless braziers. The air smelled of frankincense and myrrh, and in the distance, the rhythmic sound of drums reverberated. We were in a different time, an even more ancient Egypt, a time where gods walked among men. Sarah clung to my arm, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. I could feel her trembling, her grip tightening as we took in the alien surroundings. We were strangers in a strange land, prisoners of an era we couldn't comprehend. Suddenly the drumming ceased and a hush fell over the palace. The grand doors at the end of the hall creaked open, and in walked a figure that left us in awe. He was tall and imposing, clad in a golden robe that shimmered with precious stones. The double crown of Egypt sat upon his head, and his eyes were as dark and deep as the Nile. This was a pharaoh of the old world, a god king. As his gaze landed on us, my heart pounded in my chest. We were trespassers, intruders in a time not our own. But before fear could completely take hold, the pharaoh's stern face broke into a smile, his voice filling the room. "Welcome, wanderers of time." The words struck me like a lightning bolt. He knew what we were, where we came from. But how? Before I could voice my questions, he gestured for us to follow him. With no other choice, we did, walking through a labyrinth of corridors, each more opulent than the last. We entered a chamber, its walls adorned with hieroglyphs that seemed to tell stories of battles and triumphs, gods and demons, love and betrayal. The pharaoh turned to us, his eyes gleaming with an ancient wisdom. He spoke of the machine, the spectral guardians, and the Ankh. He knew of our desperate attempts to return to our time and our harrowing journey through the annals of history. His words painted a terrifying picture of a past that had become our prison and a future that was fading away. The guardians you encountered were not meant to harm you, but to prevent the violation of time, he said, his voice echoing in the chamber. The machine was built by the gods to observe the flow of time, not alter it. You have awakened forces you cannot comprehend. His words were a chilling reminder of our audacity, our desperation. We had meddled with time, played with forces we didn't understand, and we were paying the price. But there is a way, he continued, his gaze piercing. A sacrifice to the god of time, Thoth. A life for a life. One of you must remain, and the other may return. A life for a life. The words resonated in my mind, a haunting echo that filled me with dread. I looked at Sarah, her face pale as she comprehended the Pharaoh's words. A sacrifice. It was her or me. I could see the fear in her eyes, but also a determination, a fierce resolve. She was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. For me. For us. But I couldn't let her. The thought of leaving her behind, of returning to our time without her, was a fate worse than being trapped in the past. As we stared at each other, an unspoken promise passed between us. We would find a way together. We were trapped in a time not our own, facing ancient forces beyond our understanding. But as long as we were together, we had a fighting chance. With the Pharaoh's words echoing in our minds and the daunting task ahead, we stepped back into the palace. The grandeur of the ancient world was a stark contrast to the horror of our situation. The shadowy depths of the past had trapped us, our future hanging by a thread. As we moved towards an uncertain tomorrow, the whispers of ancient times echoed around us, a terrifying lullaby in a world of shadows.